First, thank you so much for taking your time.
That's all right.
I appreciate it. But I do want to let people know like how long we know each other. It's been a long time.
I'm not good with time, so that's not a good start. But it's been a very long time.
If people don't know who you are, you're Bevan Chuang, one of my best friends for a long, long time. And I met you when you were still working for the Auckland Museum, and I was working for Mental Health Foundation.
Yes. And it was about a project that you want to do for, Asian mental health.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it was a long time ago. Yeah.
And that is when I learned about 1.5.
Yeah?
That was actually through you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then, that was exactly what happened. Is otherwise I wouldn't even understand what 1.5 means.
Yeah.
And that was a very significant pivotal moment for me to understand the challenges 1.5 Asians experience in New Zealand.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to, I guess, explain. When you have to explain what 1.5 is to people, it's really hard to understand. And like everything, it's on a spectrum. So my sister called herself 1.3 or whatever because she felt more traditional. Then she is more of a Kiwi, but it's basically people who came to New Zealand or went to a second country when they're young, and we didn't choose to come here. So our parents or either as the first generation, we came. We weren't born here, so we're 1.5 generation. I have a colleague who jokingly said that we were kidnapped. So it was really funny. So we had
I like what she said
in our team. She's moved to another team, but in our team we had 3 of us who all moved to New Zealand when we were teenagers, and so we obviously speak the language and everything. But she was like, so about me. So I was kidnapped and was taken to the airport, and we came to New Zealand. I don't know why I was here. So I jokingly said that. So she's moved to another team, so there's only 2 of us that have been kidnapped to New Zealand. But we didn't actually make that choice to come, and it's and we kind of grow up here. So it's very, I guess the interesting thing is it's very clear to others that we are slightly different. Whether we go back home or we stay here, we're not quite either way. But also the interesting thing is finding other people who understand what 1.5 is, and that's the hardest part. Or finding other people from your background that can communicate, right? So,
And by the way, I just want people to know you look like you're only 22 years old.
Oh, thank you. I haven't done any cosmetic surgery.
But so I just want to let people know, when the time I met you, it wasn't that many 1.5. It's only now we see a lot more 1.5 in Auckland. But I don't think when I met you was about 2012 or even slightly earlier.
Yeah, I think.
2008 or something. That wasn't that many.
I think at the time that I came to New Zealand, we had a lot more 1.5, as in a lot of the Taiwanese and Hong Kongers came to New Zealand.
That's right.
During the 90s and early 2000s, and when we all went to school together, so we have that group of younger people, and then a lot of them went back to whether Taiwan or Hong Kong and decided to work there, and so so a lot of my friends from that group have went back home or moved somewhere else, and then I think I guess in the recent times you start seeing more where your whole family migrates to New Zealand. You start seeing more, but there was a time when there wasn't as many because they've all left the country. And
I agree, because like me, I choose to come to New Zealand. And when I came to New Zealand, I was 28, so I already have a very solid life that from Malaysia. I came to New Zealand, but I know like 1.5 are usually having not necessarily challenge, but it's just like you still hold both worlds.
And I think the interesting thing is how teenagers is the time you form your identity, your worldview and everything. And you come to this other country and you need to find out who you are, what to do, what's important, and actually learn to settle in a new country. I mean, I'm fairly lucky as in I could speak English, and Hong Kong isn't too different in terms of system-wise to New Zealand, so it wasn't too hard for me to settle. But, you know, I told people that I was a teenager, but I have to go and find my own school. I've got to find all this other thing. And like...
You have to go and find your own school?
Well, I found my own school back when I was still in Hong Kong, actually.
Wow.
So I remember my parents went to the Consul General, picked up this book, and we were literally going through the book and look for the schools in our area, and then one of them was actually a theology school, so so we have to go through all of them and email people and say, you know, so we knew nothing. And yeah, we've got to do all that, and like a lot of children where there's 1.5 or second generation, we also end up being the translator for their parents, and
it's still happening,
and it's I think the difficulties is being a child, but taking on adult's role, but you're a child. And that sort of, I guess, it's a bit of where are you and who are you? And then you've got the expectation to act certain way at home and certain way outside of home, you know, whether it's school or in the public, because the culture is different.
Absolutely.
And then trying to work out, how does it all work?
Because there's no one you can talk to really about it. I mean, like you experience it, but there's no reference that necessarily you can draw from or talk to someone about. Even I think the translation is still happening for many people who came, and that can be a big challenge.
And I think one of the things that a lot of migrants communities are aware of, but there's no support, especially for youth, is that step where young people or children assume the role of an adult, but they're not an adult.
Exactly.
And so there is a lot of that challenge, and also the fact that you can't just do what every other child is doing because you've got to be at home looking after your parents or your grandparents, but you're not an adult. And yeah, it's still happening a lot. And in New Zealand, we don't really have anything specifically for migrant children.
No.
You've got, you know, sort of youth school holiday program and stuff, but there's nothing really about supporting migrant youth, but also allow their parents to understand what young people are going through.
That's why I witnessed as well, even from the time I work in a different organization, seeing there's many young Asians who, even due to having different roles and responsibility and start having, you know, mental health issues, and in the end, many of them didn't even want to disclose to their family because they fear the parents might feel guilty or don't understand as well.
I think mostly it's not understanding. So we in my current work, I deal with a lot of people from all sort of background, and you know that it's actually really hard sometimes for your parents to understand mental health or any other issues that we face here in New Zealand is kind of very different concept back in Asia or back home. And it's not something that I could really, you know, explain. So when we talk about things like anxiety, and which is very normal actually, or stress, it's not a concept that could really be translated into another language. And one other interesting thing, so I've been following this person on Instagram, and she talked about some of these concepts in Chinese compared to the Western world, and why it's different, and particularly things like the language itself. So an example of is disability, and in Chinese is 残障, which actually means that you are, you know, disabled, but also not able to do anything. Like there's a barrier, basically 障碍, you know, the barrier to do something, and So that concept is relatively negative in a Chinese word sense.
Exactly.
But I can't think of another more positive Chinese word to describe that. And so when you have it in, so when you talk about whether or not you are actually disabled in a Chinese setting, it's often very negative.
Exactly.
So you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Whereas in the Western world, it's slightly more positive.
Yeah.
And you can be disabled and people still feel it's okay. It's not a barrier. It's just that you may not have an ability to do certain things the way that other people do. But it's not a barrier.
And I agree. I mean, like a lot of, like most likely they also hold that self-stigma. I mean, even myself with, like depression, anxiety, I know I'm not the only one, but throughout the years working in the mental health sector, I'm the only Chinese who willing to kind of like find out, even just about depression and anxiety, and that also reflect, like the stigma attached to it, like what you say, the language, like sometimes when it's translated, it's not necessarily having the same context.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I work with a lot at the moment is young people who are in the rainbow community, right? And there is a growing number of words you can describe, but it's still relatively limited. Like English, you can just, I mean, it's a bit of a mouthful, but you can go LGBTQ or LGBTQIA plus. But in Chinese, you're either, a homosexual, bisexual, or you can be called queer, but it doesn't really reflect that depth of the rainbow community. So it's really, really hard sometimes to explain concepts in a different culture.
I agree.
And it's much harder for young people who, I guess in one way, they kind of get used to this environment, and this is how everyone in my peer works. But how do I explain that? Because it might not even be like that my parents are not open to it, but it's because they can't understand.
Exactly.
And it's really hard to explain that concept to them. So I'm really lucky that my parents and my mom and even my uncle, who are quite old, are quite open to it. But it is still, sometimes it's still a struggle to explain because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. I'm with you because I remember when I first came out to my parents, I have to be an educator. It's not just saying I'm gay and then you walk away. I have to take on a responsibility and differentiate what is gender, sex, or sexual orientations, like why I'm not going to change my sex, and all that. So it's not just me coming out. It's like me coming out
as an educator.
As an educator. That's really well put.
Which is really difficult for a young person who not only have to navigate who they are, but then suddenly become an educator. And it's the same conversation about being a translator because you actually become an educator as well. And it's like, at what point does that person then take on that role and how much that the person needs to do, to actually be able to educating your family about it. And to be honest, most in Asian cultures, most of the terms that explain anything to do with not normal, it's really negative, and it's really hard to again explain that in a more positive perspective. And again, it's nothing I guess we could really do other than educating, but it's really a challenge sometimes to go, how do I explain that to people in a more positive term, and that even if you are disabled, for example, it's not the end of the world because if you've got mental health problems, it's also okay. It's actually normal.
And like what you say, like because you're not even just given a sentence or whatever, it's not just about providing that information, but you also then have to start unpacking the meaning behind it. And how it differs from where they came from and what does it mean here in New Zealand system. So in the end, it's not just about, you're diagnosed with this. It's like, no, you have to unpack so many layers.
But also an interesting conversation I had with my colleague yesterday, whose children was born and grew up here. And so like all young people, they've got a very different view to their parents and not in a bad way. And that sometimes kind of became a bit of a clash because they grew up here, they've got the special view about, or different view about how the world should be, and their parents is like, but you know, and there's always that clash. And again, it's not a bad thing as such.
Yeah.
My colleague is obviously aware of those views, but for a lot of people, it's not, and it's not necessarily something they could be educated on in a short time. So you do see a lot of younger or the different sort of intergenerational clashes because the concept's just different.
Absolutely.
You know, you come to New Zealand, you have these things, but back home you don't. So,
and also, like, I can reflect, you know, like myself, when I came to New Zealand, I happened to study social science.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a big advantage. So that opened up my eyes about a different worldview.
Yeah.
And I can converse in English, that's even easier. But if they don't, you know, like have that understanding or even opportunity to necessarily integrate to the New Zealand society, they only have what they can reference from back home.
Yeah. And it's also just sometimes it's just hard to explain that in a different cultural term. And so, and I don't think there is a lot of these happening. Support for parents and their children to understand, you know, the challenges that both people have, both generations have. Let alone that there's always an intergenerational clashes anyway, so that's it's an added stress for parents, you know. But
and also depends on how open, like your mom and uncle, you know, like they seems to be open-minded, able to talk about different things and kind of have that inquisitive mind, want to learn about new things. But if someone just close off, it would be tough.
But also sometimes you know that you can't bombard them with too much new information, right? And
exactly.
And as open as they are, and as I said, I'm really blessed. There are still too much information you're giving them at the same time, and that which overloads them. And they're like, "Oh, I can't understand what's going on." I mean, partly, as I said, some of them is just intergenerational challenges anyway. But there are a lot of new things that you're expecting them to learn, and at the same time, for a young person or you know, children of the first generation, they're like, I understand the culture or what my parents are going through, but at the same time, the expectation the outside world have, you know, the society have is very different. So therefore, I have to, you know, carry myself differently when I'm at school, at work, in a community, you know, whatever. And that shift is something that's not really being supported, and it's really hard to navigate, right? So one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about since you've asked me to have this chat is obviously your brand talks about authenticity. And with someone who is neurodivergent, it's very difficult to explain terms anyway, because it's a very vague term, but also and this person that was watching on TikTok talked about whether masking is fake. And I kind of feel like that's the same with someone who's 1.5 generation, right? Who me putting on a different characteristics when I'm at work or at home doesn't necessarily mean I'm fake, but it's my way of just, you know, maybe making sure that I can get my work done, I can get, you know, get along with people. I'm still me, but it's not exactly, you know, it's not 100% me, but I'm still me. And also partly it's just to make things easier for everybody that's involved. You know, like if I were exactly who I am at work and at home, I think my mom would be really crazy. Like she would drive her really crazy, you know. But the same, like if I do anything that I do at home, at work, I know my workmates won't appreciate that. It's just a lot of that. I think it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it fit in, but it's just so that it adjusts to the environment.
I agree, because, you know, like throughout the years, a lot of people thought I was extroverted because I look like I'm extremely outgoing and all that. I mean, the reason why I can, you know, immerse myself into those environments because I like talking to people. As a matter of fact, I am very private, introverted. Not many people really know who I am. You know, like, so I agree. Like, I also felt like sometimes like which one, because I also neurodivergence as well. Like I have ADHD. Not until just 3 years ago I was diagnosed, but then I can start seeing, that's why, like sometimes I do things without thinking, like I'll just go ahead and do it. And then it's like, oh, yeah, that's true. Or say things, like but I never also have that hyperactive energy.
Yeah.
I'm very feminine, so my energy is inwardly, like not outwardly expressed, except when I'm talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you ask me which one is the real Ivan, I would say the real Ivan is the one that who always, like just love people. Basically, like whoever that is. But then whatever that persona I have, not necessarily is me.
Yeah.
Like what you say, sometimes it's a culturally shaped.
Yeah.
Like because our Asian culture, you have to be polite.
Yeah.
That's culturally shaped.
Yeah.
But sometimes I also want to say,
Yeah.
And
I think, it's interesting being a neurodivergent 1.5 generation in a foreign country and learning about, how I sort of shifted my personality depending on where, and also maybe heavily influenced by my neurodivergency. And is that I don't feel like I'm not me when I'm in different settings, even though I look different. It's just that, it's about fitting. I want to say fitting in, but it's about just adapting to the area or the scenario or the space. So, I was also late diagnosed ADHD, which I'm not surprised actually, and I'm pretty sure my mom has it, but. We haven't actually tested that. But I'm pretty sure
my father had it.
I'm pretty sure we have, because we leave every drawers open. We can't seem to walk properly and things like that. And I think that when I had my sessions with my EAP services, and the person that spoke to me was also neurodivergent, of also Chinese, and she talked about how that sometimes we forget that we mask more than other people, because when we are at work, we might mask our Asian side, and we might mask our feminine side, and then obviously just my ADHD side anyway. And so this is why sometimes you feel exhausted, and then talk about how we can make yourself less exhausted, but also knowing that that's just who it is. Like, so there are certain things as open as my parents are, and everyone around me is, but, I might not talk to them about certain things. Like, Asian children are not going to talk to your parents about sex. And again, nothing wrong, but it's just not something that you would talk about. Right. And you don't really show affection as such with your parents or your children, or, but is that a bad thing? No, it's just how it is. And you get, but it doesn't mean that I'm fully me all the time, because if I'm out, I might be really affectionate and all that stuff, but at home, it's inappropriate to do that. But at work, I wouldn't do certain things, or challenged. Sometimes, at work, I may challenge the system, challenge the manager, challenge the colleagues that I work with. But not something you would definitely do with your Asian parents. So
no,
you get
no way, no, not even my father, my mom would be so upset. Even absolutely.
And but it doesn't mean that you don't respect them, or you don't, you can talk about things, and you can still have disagreement, but definitely not the same way you would challenge your workmates, your manager, or the system the same way that you do at home.
And I also want to point out, because you're right, like my mom would never say she loved me, because it's just not in her vocabulary.
Yeah.
But when I went back to Malaysia, she'll make sure that she'll cook.
Have you eaten?
Anything I want.
Just keep eating.
Yeah, make sure that she'll even just make sure that I have enough money to travel. She'll make sure that so the way they show out for love is not through verbal. That is just not in the comfort zone, but they will still show affections, and it's just not necessarily compared to how the Western world might express love. They will still show out and making sure you eaten.
It's always about food, right? Have you eaten? Do you want more food? No, I'm full. No, eat more.
And I said, you're fat. But
you need
are you hungry?
How did you get so fat? But you need to eat more. But you're fat.
I know, yeah. We're not going to get this type of food back.
Yeah, but you need to eat more, but you're fat.
Yeah.
Nah, but I think, something that, like you said, being late diagnosed means that you suddenly realize, oh, that makes sense.
Yes.
But then also thinking about how I've always had this different personalities because of my 1.5 background and everything else. It's sort of like, it's actually very natural for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't even notice when that starts shifting. So like some people may actively do masking or do something different, but for me it just so naturally slipped into this other personality because it's always been like that for me. And again, like so some people might see that as fake because you're you're one person this way and you're the other, but anyone out there who experienced exactly what I talked about would know exactly what I meant.
You reminded me one of the projects I did years ago and also 1.5 as well. And they say, because they have so unconsciously adapted to the behavior, like you go home, you have to be collective behavior. You have to just say yes, I don't argue. But at school, you have to be like, show up as autonomy, self-determinant individual, can make decisions. And then with peer groups, like you might have Asian friends if you're too, like Pakiha, they say, oh, why you so whitewashed? And then too Asian, and then Pakiha will say, why you so Asian?
Yeah.
So they always have to constantly adjust. It's just because then they don't have to be challenged constantly.
Yeah.
Like, so I totally would.
And it's also sometimes that you do feel comfortable in both worlds in some cultures. So, yes, talk about, in a more Pakeha world, you talk about autonomy and self-determination and being independent, and which is something that I like. But at the same time, in the sort of more, I guess, Asian, Maori Pacific world, it's about collective, and you feel really comfortable with that too.
Exactly.
So it's not that you don't accept both. It's just that you take on those because of the different thing. And again, I mean, being neurodivergent, and I is that we often do a lot of mimicking what other people do. That's just part of what a lot of us do. And so it's not so much about masking, but we sort of mimic what others do to make them, I guess, kind of feels like we connect and building the connections.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy for us to mimic other cultures, other people, what they do. So when we're in those places, it's very common for us just to be like them, right? So if you're in a party, you're very likely to be like, having fun, enjoying yourself, because that's what an expected behavior is. And so you mimic all that. But when you go home, you're like, why did I do that? Why did I say yes to that? Kind of thing. But it's something that we do a lot anyway, so that people feel like they can connect to you. So you mimic, you copy what other people do. And I mean, I felt, again, these are things that I didn't notice until I was like diagnosed and I started learning about it. And then you were like, oh, that makes sense. This is why I could do this and then that, and I mean, I don't often say that neurodivergent is a superpower, because it's not, but it allows you to see things differently.
Very differently, yeah. Because of my brain, like I didn't even know that was part of the, like never shut down. Even before I was being prescribed medication, but because I need constant stimulations in terms of the brain stimulation, so I would listen to podcasts, TED Talk, learn about things, get curious. Eventually, like yourself, I just get my hand into many pies, like at one time I was doing NBA, Zumba, like I was kickboxing.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's because of that, I just need, but then because I didn't know, in the end I crashed because it's just too much at once.
Too much stimulations.
Yeah.
Your squirrel is running too much.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what that means, so if a lot of people in ADHD will talk about a squirrel, and I don't know why a squirrel. Actually,
it is.
I am going to research tonight at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Why squirrel?
Yeah.
But we often talk about a squirrel, right? Yeah. And it's about feeding that squirrel, so it keeps running, and And that stimulants or stimulations is feeding your squirrel to be running and get excited. And I said, I don't know why. So I'll find out at 3 a.m. tonight. But it's finding constantly getting that stimulation. But because when your squirrel is running 24/7, that's why it gets tired.
Very tired.
Finding that balance is very important. And
but let's do a comparison.
Yeah.
Do you know I have a fine art diploma?
Yeah. I think
and you also have.
I've got a postgraduate diploma in museum management.
Exactly, and you also like art.
Yeah.
Okay, then the other thing, we both social media as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have a job that's with community, and which is what I used to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you also, decide that you're also involved in many other things.
I'm not that involved with any other things now, which is a good thing for me.
Yeah, in the past.
But I'm involved with some of these other creative work because I like that stimulation and I don't want that to go. So not as involved with the art scene anymore, but definitely still got connection and something that I'm still interested in doing.
That creative outlet.
Yeah.
Which is also part of ADHD, because I know quite a lot of ADHD people have that.
I guess people with ADHD doesn't really like to be doing the same thing all the time. They get bored really easily. So creativity works a lot with people with ADHD because it kind of that changes. I don't know if I've got any other neurodivergent. I kind of feel like I might have a little bit of autism, but because I really like system as well, which is what drives myself crazy. So if you know anyone who's got ADHD, so AUDHD, you know how crazy it is, because at one point you want chaos, but the other point you want system, and you want things in a certain way, and it clashes. So I really like, if you have something, I need everything in my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it's not going to happen. And I want things in a certain way. But at the same time, I've needed all this time to just do whatever I want and have that. So my arts or more creative work is to help me release that,
expressions.
My BAU is very systematic at times. There are things that I need to follow. There's paperwork and things like that I can't change. But my other work can be more creative, can be whatever I want to do.
And it's just like your hair color, you have very nice hair color. And then my expression is through clothing. I like, and I think that's part of that, creative expression. Not necessarily in a traditional defined sense, but you still need to have the outlet to kind of let the energy out. So it's I can feel like that part of my squirrel is fed, and then I can sit down and do my systematic paperwork stuff. When my squirrel is like, okay, I can chill a bit now. I've got that. I know. I totally get it, because my creative side is, like writing blog, like doing social media, like recording. And I like it. It's fun doing editing, even though the fact is I accidentally put myself in front of social media wasn't even my plan. But So I mean, that's what I want to kind of share with you, because I thought, wow, not many Asian will say, I know a lot of Asian actually has been, but many wouldn't even say it because they don't want people to know.
I mean, my psychiatrist that spoke to me was Asian, and he knew instantly about stigmatism and Asian community, but also, I guess the word ADHD or neurodivergent in Asia, it's very difficult to explain. I mean, not only the ADHD talk about, that typical thing of, you're hyperactive, but also I was talking to a friend who moved to Singapore, and he was telling me about how in Singapore it's very much a medical view, and the idea is to cure neurodivergent.
Cure?
Yeah. Ooh. So the whole thing is about medication. It's more about, what kind of medical health support can be given to people with neurodivergent, right? And which I'm also not surprised, because it's Singapore.
Yes.
Bless.
They're very medical.
They're very, very, very much about system, right? And they're very much about people doing the same thing, right? And so I'm also not surprised. but also that means that a lot of people who are neurodivergent aren't getting the actual supports they need. And anyone who is neurodivergent will know that even though you may be on medication, your psychiatrist would tell you to look at other ways of therapy, right? Because it's not just about medication.
Absolutely.
It's a whole lot of different lifestyle changes and adaptation. Yeah. And if we talk about this in other parts of Asia, like I don't think I talk about this in Hong Kong. I haven't read. I've got those books, but I haven't started reading about things in Taiwan and how they treated it. But ADHD, tends to be like the old view of the little boy that run around and throw things, right, and scream around. And ADHD in female and male tends to be slightly different to start off with anyway. So girls not necessarily run around. They may be inattentive, but they still good high achiever. They seems to be everything that seems to be okay, but it's actually not, so it's not something that you can see. No. But in Asia, it's like, no, if you got it, and people still sometimes see it's a negative thing. So if you're neurodivergent, and probably worse if you're autistic, then you are being seen as a bad thing for the family.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's a bad genetics, is a bad omen. How did I get a child who is different? And why can't you just be like every other child? Which doesn't kind of work out with neurodivergent.
but that's what you just like hit the nail on the head is, like the Asians, like they want to be able to fit in, to be able to conform to that norm.
Yeah.
And then so it's not like extra steps that, like, oh, my child have to do to be able to compete to the very competitive world. And I was saying because, like back in Malaysia, I don't know, like I can never do well with my studies because I just not the kind of person who can memorize things. Doesn't work for me. So I always felt I'm so stupid, like not until I came to New Zealand when I did and then suddenly things just flipped over. I was able to pass my exam assignment and all that. It's not like A or but at least, like my family was...
Because the way it was done is different,
Yeah, because I able to express my thinking, and which is what I like.
Yeah.
And so it became an advantage. And my peers and all that, they run because they don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So it became an advantage for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've got my split personality online as well. So I've got 2 different things online. So I've got my own personal social media, and my Instagram is more about random stuff that I see, and photos and things. But my TikTok tends to be more about my neurodivergent journey and sexual violence is something that I'm really passionate about.
Great.
And so I talked a little bit about that sometimes on my TikTok. And then on my split personality side, so in the last, what is this now, 5 years, 6 years, I've been been watching a lot of, I don't know if anyone knows about this, but there's a genre of entertainment called BL, Boys Love. And it's not quite queer story as such. It's more like it's more like it is romantic story between 2 men mostly, but I wouldn't say it's an LGBT gay film or more movies. So I've been watching quite a bit, and I've been writing about them, but more from to feed my ADHD squirrel as to more of the research behind some of these things. So all I've been doing is like some of these series sometimes talk about social issues or music or things. So I do a bit of research about them, and then I've been putting information out. So I've called it the Be Love Entertainment. It was changed from many different life paths, but at the moment it's called Be Love Entertainment, and it talks a lot about sort of the behind the scenes about those stories. And so I've also then from there done interviews with authors, producers, actors, and communities about the story behind the stories, and particularly I think from the creative side, the producer, the one. So yeah, I've been doing that for a little bit, and then early this year, I've also started doing some filming for Pride Month, which I'm trying to expand. So just talking to a wide number of queer community, whether it's Asian in New Zealand or Asian in Asia, about experiences of of them, and it's very interesting. It is very different depending on your generation as well. Just
so
because
it's like a short documentary, and not that but
it's about like 15, 30 minutes, depending on how much I have to. But it's very again, it's very different depending on where they're from, and personal stories. Some of them, and generation.
Awesome.
So someone who's older, even though they are from the queer community, have a very different view to someone who's younger.
That's wonderful.
Which surprisingly quite traditional.
I'll have to put your link into my linking and all that.
I mean, it's surprisingly, some of that interview I had with older queer community are quite traditional, which you're like, hey, but but then you think about it and go, that makes sense because they are older. So even though they are queer, but they have that traditional view of things. And then you've got the younger people who are like,
very different.
This is what it is, kind of thing. So it's been interesting doing those interviews and learning from them. Some of them are my friends anyway, so it's easier. I've got that's something that I'm trying to expand in this coming year as well. So I've got the first 5 or 6 that I did was specifically for Pride Month, but I kind of wanted to do more. So recently I did one with the Hong Kong marriage equality group about their view of the marriage equality cases in Hong Kong and the legislation stuff, and their view of marriage equality, and then so I'm trying to expand on that a little bit beyond just my interest on my entertainment.
By the way, people probably didn't know. Like, tell me the very first time you're involved in film festival, because that happened.
Oh God, how long was that? That's too tough.
Because people was like, how you started? But you started way back.
Yeah, but I can't remember when it was. So I did some work with the Hong Kong Film Festival, and was helping them with promotion, connecting with people. But I think we were only around. Well, our team anyway was around for 3 years or so. I am supporting other film festival and other groups that are doing that. And then I had someone who reached out to me recently about wanting to do some queer and independent film festival, Chinese specifically, here in New Zealand, but don't know whether or not it would work, and then budgeting and costing and stuff, which is something that I'm, also interested in supporting. But it's hard a film festival though, now in New Zealand. I know we've got a few, but
now it's like New Zealand.
International Film Festival.
I've been to a few as well.
And a lot of them now tends to be more like New Zealand, which is great. And then of course you've got the Dog Edge festival, and the stuff that they do is been around. They've been like 11 years now, I think. I can't remember how long they've been running for. It's been doing quite well. And then I've got your other, Italian or French film festival and little things like that. But it's not easy doing film festival now though. It's really hard.
Too competitive, too many.
Yeah, it's very competitive. Also, it's really hard to get people out to the cinema. The one that I've been to, they're all very quiet. I mean, there are a few film people that imported Asian films as well, and when I go to those cinemas, it's actually really quiet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a really good movie. Like, it's been winning awards overseas, but it's really quiet here, and that's it's been really hard to get people out to watch a movie now. So
true.
so that's a bit of a struggle, but Yeah, so it's that whole creativity thing that I'm still really passionate about. But also, like I said, like I keep saying I do interview with the people behind the scene because I find that interesting, right?
Absolutely.
So if you go and search online, you'll see a lot of other people around the world that do interviews with actors because people really just want to look at the actors. But it's often the creative side, like why did they do this? Why did they? So even if that story was created based on a published with a book or manga, why did they adapt it? What changes have they made? You know, and all this little thing.
How they see the narrative.
And how they see the narrative. Especially if it's adapted to a different country. How does that work? You know, like all this little thing are way more interesting.
The story try to tell.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Way more interesting for me than it is about the actor. I mean, no offense, I do like them. I do know a few of those actors, but you know, the point is that a lot of these why? You know, like, you know, and the little things. You know, one of producers talked about, you know, how with the filming they couldn't do certain things, so they did it reverse. And so when they edit it, they just do the reverse back because they couldn't do the scene that they wanted when they were filming. I think it was like rolling a coin out or something. Anyway, and because they couldn't do it the way they wanted it, they did it in reverse and they just flipped it over in the editing. Right, things like that are like, oh, that's. You know, and how much work has been put into thinking about that, but also how much work is put behind creating the stories, right? And I think a lot of us who are neurodivergent find words quite hard to explain, but we can see images in our head. That's why we're probably very creative. But then you think about how a producer or director see that image in the head, and how do you then put that out, right, into the world. On screen. Like, how do you do that? And why? Like, why did you see it that way?
All the scenes, how people come together, the story, how it woven together. Wow,
or maybe because when the actors are acting, you see something different. And you're like, okay, wait, let's just change this because this will work better, or this chemistry would do better, you know, than what I might have written, you know, and so like, how does that all come about?
Are you interested to become director one day?
No, no, but I'm really fascinated about, you know, that behind the story, like the why and what make them created that scene that way, and obviously. With everything, we know that we can't copy everything that is, you know, in a book or in a, you know, because it's some things you need to change to adapt.
To make it work for the screen.
For the screen, but also like why you did it this way. And so that's one of the reasons why I've sort of started those interviews.
I mean, because that's when we talk about authentic leadership, you know, like and then that's what I noticed, like your creative side has never left you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be cheeky and say that is your authentic leadership.
I mean, my thing is, one thing that I'm really passionate about and still is about storytelling. And I think that's probably what that creativity came about. It's storytelling.